Omid Scobie has written a book which has grabbed massive international press attention for various reasons. One reason is he's arguing the issue of race and is the royal family racist has been kind of ignored by the more reverential coverage of the British journalists that are in the British royal family press pack. However, one explosive aspect of the book, which has perhaps gathered most attention, is that the Dutch version of the book has named two people who it is claimed or alleged asked what colour might this baby be in terms of Harry and Meghan's child. Now, the naming of these two people is extremely controversial. Omid Scobie has claimed this was not a publicity stunt. He didn't do it on purpose. It's a mistake. Does his interview reveal to a psychiatrist or a psychologist whether he's telling the truth about that? So Omid Scobie has fielded a lot of questions about the fact that the Dutch version of this book names two senior figures in the royal family who appear to have asked a question that looks a little bit racist. The naming of these two people has profound legal implications, and there may be legal action taken as a result of these two names appearing out there in the press and the media. Omid Scobie has claimed and claims in various interviews, in particular an interview given on ITV's This Morning, that this was an error. It was nothing to do with him. Many people in the press are very suspicious and believe it was something to do with him. He is pleading innocence, but actually this was really a publicity stunt to gather a lot of attention for the book and boost sales. Can we tell by observing the interviews he's given what's really going on here? Is it true that, as he claims, this was an innocent error beyond his control, or does he have more of a role to play than he's letting on? To a psychiatrist, one of the things that's very interesting in the interview he gives in particular on This Morning is that when asked about what happened and how did the names appear in the Dutch version of the book, his explanation is that he wrote an English version of the book and he knew what was going into the English version, and that the book is then licensed beyond his control to other publishers all around the world. And he says, I don't read Italian, Spanish, or Dutch. Therefore, he's claiming it's not his fault that he doesn't know what appears in other language versions of the book. However, there's quite a deep psychological problem here with this argument. Omid Scobie is an investigative journalist. He makes his living from investigating things and getting to the bottom of things. That, in a way, is the main marketing shtick of his books, and in particular, this book. He's arguing he's done a more profound investigation of what's going on with the royal family than most royal journalists are doing. Therefore, it seems a bit paradoxical that this investigative journalist, when asked what went wrong, doesn't appear to have done his own investigation. To be fair to Omid Scobie, it is possible he did investigate and hasn't told us the investigation. But I have to say that if this is the kind of investigation he does, which is, I have no idea, in a sense, how this happened, then it does raise a question about how good at investigation this investigative journalist is. One of the controversies around this book is the question of whether the royal family is racist. Omid Scobie himself says he's not accusing them of racism, but unconscious racial bias, which to a psychologist and a psychiatrist is a tricky accusation. Because when you bring up the notion of unconscious, the unconscious or unconsciousness, this is a deeply controversial psychological concept. In other words, you have an attitude, maybe a racist attitude, but that's actually going on below conscious awareness. So you yourself are not openly racist. You're not voluntarily racist. You're not doing so in an open, controlled, volitional, choice type way. In a sense, what's happening is you're racist and don't know that you're racist. The whole idea of the unconscious is very controversial within psychology and psychiatry. And the problem is it's very difficult to defend yourself against it. So it's a very clever accusation because it allows you to write the accusation, but it's very difficult to see how you defend yourself against it. The other really interesting thing about this whole accusation is Omid Scobie is clearly a young journalist. Does his writing reflect a generational psychological change in attitude to the royal family, which moves us away from a reverential attitude that older generations have? Younger people may take a view that how we feel about the royal family is extremely important. Certainly how you feel about other public figures is important. For example, how you feel about the Prime Minister, how you feel about your local politician, because it will determine a key action, which is whether you vote for them or not. You don't get to vote for the royal family. The whole point of the royal family is they're kind of foisted upon you, and you accept that implicit contract, and you sit around being reverential. I think Omid Scobie's book and the argument he's mounting signals a really interesting psychological generational change, which is that the royal family will have to be a bit more like politicians and court people's favor. And I think that is the central tension between the modern youthful attitude to the royal family and this tradition that goes back 1,000 years and is not used to the idea that people should feel good about. One of the allegations in the book is that Kate is a bit of a Stepford wife. Omid Scobie defends himself by saying he never said Stepford wife, he said Stepford-esque. The Stepford wife concept is the idea of the perfect wife who's submissive and docile and does and performs her role as a wife and mother to the T, but basically is a slave to convention. The argument here appears to be that Kate, in being an uncontroversial member of the royal family, a dutiful member of the royal family, is basically not allowed to be herself. And this again is about a central tension, which is if the royal family just go around doing their royal duties and therefore don't reveal anything about themselves, they're doing something wrong. Again, is this a modern, youthful, generational, psychological attitude which is different, which is we need to know what these people are really like, and then we'll make a decision about how we feel about that.